Welcome to PodX Studio. Today we're diving deep into a figure you might not know much about, but who played a huge role in shaping the India we know today.
Okay.
Sher Shah Suri.
Yeah, he's a fascinating guy.
He's often overshadowed by the Mughals, but his impact
Oh, absolutely.
was massive.
Huge.
We've got some incredible class notes from a medieval Indian history lecture to guide us through this deep dive.
Oh, cool.
So if you're new to history, don't worry.
Yeah, we'll break it down.
We'll make it easy to follow.
Definitely.
So who was this Sher Shah Suri?
Well, his real name was actually Farid, and he started out as a Jagirdar's son.
The Jagirdar.
Yeah, it's like a local lord who was given land in exchange for military service.
Ah, okay, so kind of like a noble.
Exactly. And get this, he earned the nickname Sher Khan,
Sher Khan.
meaning Tiger King,
Wow.
after killing a tiger.
Whoa, talk about earning your stripes.
Right. That's a story to tell.
Definitely a good party story.
You know, beyond just bravery, Sher Khan was also incredibly ambitious, and he saw an opportunity to rise to power.
I can imagine. The Lodi dynasty was crumbling at that time.
Yeah, exactly. There was so much chaos and competition for control.
It was like a power vacuum waiting to be filled.
Right.
And Sher Khan, he was a master strategist.
Oh, absolutely. He carefully built up his power base, making alliances, choosing his battles wisely.
So not just a warrior,
No,
but a political player too.
absolutely a shrewd one.
The notes mentioned the Battle of Surajgarh in 1534
Oh, yeah, a major turning point.
against the Sultan of Bengal.
Right, that's when he really started to flex his military muscle.
And then there's the Battle of Samel in 1544
Ah, yes, that was huge.
against the Rajputs.
Exactly, a decisive victory that gave him control of a massive territory.
Imagine a stretch of land from Sindh and Punjab all the way to Bengal,
I know, it's hard to even comprehend.
practically the entire northern part of India.
Exactly, he was clearly a military mastermind.
It's clear he knew how to fight. But the notes suggest there was more to him than just battles
Oh, absolutely.
and conquests.
He was a visionary leader.
Okay. I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
Well, he understood the importance of infrastructure, efficient administration,
Okay.
and even art and architecture.
Oh, wow. So he wasn't just about brute force.
No.
What kind of things did he build?
Well, he built the Purana Kila in Delhi.
The Purana Kila.
Yeah, also known as the Old Fort, a massive structure that still stands today. A
Wow.
real testament to his vision.
That's impressive. And his own mausoleum at Sasaram.
Ah, yes, a
He's
masterpiece.
described as one of the finest examples of Indo-Islamic architecture.
Right. Intricate carvings, grandeur, and it's situated in the middle of an artificial lake.
An artificial lake.
Yeah, pretty amazing, right? It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site.
Wow, a UNESCO World Heritage Site. That's a big deal.
Definitely, he had an eye for beauty and craftsmanship.
He certainly did. And it wasn't just limited to Delhi and Sasaram, right?
Oh, no, the Rhodes Fort in what's now Pakistan.
Another UNESCO World Heritage Site.
It's known for its massive fortifications and strategic location.
He was leaving his mark all over the place.
He certainly was.
And there's the Sher Shah Suri Masjid in Patna.
Yes. A beautiful mosque, a reflection of the architectural style of his time.
So he wasn't just building forts and palaces,
No, he created spaces for worship and community gathering, too.
showing a different side to him.
Exactly, recognizing the importance of faith and cultural expression.
Okay, so we have a warrior king who's also a patron of the arts and architecture.
Right.
This is starting to sound like a real Renaissance man.
He was ahead of his time.
But what about his administrative skills?
Oh, those were incredible.
Really?
You could argue that his administrative reforms were even more impactful
Wow.
than his military achievements.
Okay, now I'm really curious. Tell me more about these reforms.
Well, for starters, the way he organized his empire,
Okay.
he divided it into 47 administrative units called sarkars.
Sarkars.
Yeah, like provinces. And each sarkar was further divided into smaller units called parganas or districts. So a hierarchy.
Exactly, with clear lines of authority and responsibility.
It sounds like he was really thinking systematically
Oh, he was a very organized guy.
about how to manage such a vast and diverse empire.
Exactly. And he had specific officials in charge of different aspects of administration at each level.
Oh, wow. So at the pargana level, for example.
You had the Shikar for military matters, the Amil for land revenue collection, the Kanungo for record keeping, and the Futadar to manage the treasury.
That's incredibly organized.
He didn't mess around.
And at the highest level.
He had 4 key ministers, the Diwani Wizarat for revenue and finance,
Yeah.
the Diwani Reis for military affairs, the Diwani Risalat for foreign relations,
Oh.
and the Diwani Insha for communications.
That's like a cabinet. It sounds very similar to how modern governments are structured.
Right. He was way ahead of his time.
And his innovations didn't stop there, did they?
Yeah. He also reformed the revenue system.
Like how?
Well, he introduced something called the Zabti system.
Ah, yes, I've heard of that, but remind me how it worked. Basically, it involved a careful assessment of land quality to determine how much tax each farmer should pay.
Oh, so it was based on the idea that taxes should be fair.
Exactly proportionate to the land's productivity.
That sounds like a pretty radical idea for the time.
He wanted to make sure farmers weren't overburdened so they could invest in their land.
That's a really forward-thinking approach,
Right. Thinking about the long-term economic health of his empire.
not just short-term gains.
Exactly.
And he didn't stop at land assessment either.
Nope. He also introduced the concept of crop rates.
Crop rates.
Yeah, called RAE. So the tax rate could be adjusted based on the type of crop being grown.
Taking into account things like yield and market value.
Exactly.
That's incredibly sophisticated.
He was creating a system that was adaptable to different agricultural conditions.
Wow.
And market fluctuations.
It sounds like a modern system.
Right. He also introduced specific documents,
What kind of document?
like the Pada, which outlined the amount of tax each peasant had to pay, and the Kubuliyat, which served as a deed of agreement.
So he was trying to eliminate ambiguity and potential for corruption.
Exactly. He wanted everything to be clear and accountable.
This is mind-blowing. He really was centuries ahead of his time.
I know. It's incredible, right?
So we've talked about land revenue reforms, but did he do anything to change the currency system?
Oh, absolutely. He understood that a standardized currency was essential
Yes.
for economic stability and growth.
So what did he do?
He introduced the silver rupaya
Okay.
and the gold ashrafi, also known as the mohur.
The rupaya.
That silver rupaya, weighing a specific 178 grains of silver,
Yeah.
is considered the direct ancestor of the modern Indian rupee.
Wow, so the currency we use today has its roots in the reforms of Sher Shah Suri.
It's incredible, isn't it? Over 450 years ago.
A legacy that's still with us today.
It's a testament to the enduring impact of his vision.
He wasn't just thinking about his own time.
Nope.
He was laying the groundwork for a more prosperous and stable future for India.
He was a true visionary.
Okay, so we've covered his military genius, his architectural achievements, his administrative brilliance, his impact on our currency.
What else could this guy do?
Is there anything else this remarkable ruler managed to accomplish in his relatively short reign?
Oh, there's more, believe it or not.
Really?
Remember how we talked about him being a visionary leader?
Yeah.
Well, that vision extended to infrastructure as well.
Oh, so like roads and bridges.
Exactly. He understood that a well-connected empire was a strong empire.
So he was a road trip enthusiast too. This guy seems to have done it all.
He was ahead of his time in recognizing the importance of infrastructure.
What did he build?
Well, one of his most notable contributions was the rebuilding and improvement of the Grand Trunk Road.
The Grand Trunk Road, that's iconic.
Right. It still exists today, connecting major cities across India.
It's amazing to think that we're driving on a road that was significantly shaped by Sher Shah Suri.
Over 450 years ago.
That's incredible.
And he didn't just focus on the road itself. He built a network of sarais, or rest houses, every 8 kilometers along major highways.
Saris.
Yeah, like rest stops.
That's brilliant. Providing travelers with safety lodging.
They even evolved into bustling market towns over time.
It's like he invented the concept of a truck stop.
He was way ahead of the curve.
So we have a ruler who conquers vast territories, builds magnificent structures, reforms the administration,
It's amazing.
standardizes currency, builds roads, and even creates rest stops for travelers.
He thought of everything.
Is there anything this guy couldn't do?
Well, he also took law and order very seriously.
Oh, really?
He believed that justice was paramount
I like the sound of that.
and that no one, regardless of their status, was above the law.
That's important.
He dealt sternly with anyone who broke the law.
So he wasn't afraid to crack down.
Nope. Robbers, bandits, even powerful landowners who refused to pay their taxes.
He didn't play favorites.
Not at all. And his justice system was surprisingly modern.
How so?
Well, he appointed quasis to administer justice in different regions, but he also recognized the role of village councils called panchayats.
Panchayats.
Yeah, in handling local disputes.
That's a pretty progressive approach for the time,
He understood the importance of local governance.
while also ensuring a centralized system for more complex legal matters.
Exactly.
So we have a military mastermind, a patron of the arts,
Right.
an administrative genius, an infrastructure enthusiast, and a champion of justice.
All in one?
It's hard to believe that one person could achieve so much in such a short time.
It's remarkable.
But sadly, as the notes point out, his reign was cut tragically short.
In 1545,
1545.
after a freak accident,
Oh no, what happened?
he died from an accidental gunpowder explosion
Oh, wow.
while besieging the Kalinjar fort.
That's a heartbreaking end to such an incredible story.
It is.
It really highlights the fragility of life,
You're right.
even for the most powerful and capable individuals.
It makes you think.
It really does. His death must have sent shockwaves through his empire. What happened after he died? Did his empire crumble without his leadership?
Surprisingly, no.
Yeah.
His empire didn't immediately collapse.
Okay.
His son, Islam Shah Suri, succeeded him and managed to hold on to power for several years.
So the dynasty continued.
For a while, Islam Shah was a capable ruler in his own right.
Oh.
But after his death in 1554,
Yeah.
the Sur dynasty faced internal conflicts and rebellions.
Paving the way for Humayun's return.
Exactly, and the establishment of the Mughal Empire.
So Sher Shah's empire, though relatively short-lived, had a lasting impact
It did,
on the course of Indian history.
absolutely.
His reforms, his military achievements, his vision for a united and prosperous India laid the foundation for the Mughal era.
One of the most glorious periods in Indian history.
It's amazing how someone who ruled for such a short time could have such a massive and lasting impact.
It really is. It makes you think.
It does, and it speaks to the power of vision, determination, and a genuine desire to make a difference.
He was a man who wasn't content with the status quo.
He was driven to improve and innovate.
A true leader.
So he was a warrior, a builder, a reformer, and a visionary.
What a legacy.
But we've only scratched the surface of his story.
There's so much more to explore.
So much more to uncover about this fascinating figure.
Definitely.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the reign of Sher Shah Suri. In part 1, we talked about his rise to power, his military achievements.
And those incredible reforms.
But as we hinted at, there's so much more to explore.
Yeah, there is.
His story is packed with fascinating details that really shed light on his character and his legacy.
It really does.
So where do we go from here? What other aspects of his reign should we delve into?
Well, I think it'd be interesting to take a closer look at his military campaigns.
You know what? I agree.
We touched upon a few key battles in part 1,
Yeah.
but the notes provide a more detailed account of how he strategically expanded his empire.
Okay, perfect. Let's dive into those details. What campaign stood out to you in the notes?
Well, after his decisive victory against Humayun, Sher Shah didn't just rest on his laurels.
I can imagine.
He understood that to truly secure his power, he needed to consolidate his control over key regions.
Makes sense.
So he embarked on a series of campaigns, first targeting Malwa and Chanderi.
Malwa and Chanderi, those are regions in central India, right?
That's right. They were strategically important because they controlled key trade routes
Sure.
and had fertile land.
Valuable resources.
Exactly. Sher Shah's campaigns in these regions were swift and successful.
So he was demonstrating his military prowess
Oh, absolutely.
and his ability to plan and execute complex operations.
He was a master planner.
So he wasn't just reacting to threats, he was proactively expanding his empire.
Exactly, securing valuable resources and consolidating his power.
Like a chess player thinking several moves ahead.
He definitely had a strategic mind.
And he wasn't just focused on central India, was he?
Nope. He also recognized the importance of Rajputana,
Rajputana.
region we now know as Rajasthan.
Rajasthan. That's where all those magnificent forts and palaces are.
You got it. It was a culturally rich region with a long history of warrior traditions.
So controlling Rajputana would not only give him access to valuable resources,
Right.
but also enhance his prestige and legitimacy.
It was a symbolic victory as much as a strategic one.
It sounds like he was playing a game of chess, carefully planning his moves to gain control
He was always thinking ahead.
of the most strategically important regions.
And his campaigns in Rajputana were a testament to his ability to combine military force with diplomacy.
Oh, interesting. So it wasn't just brute force.
No, he conquered some Rajput kingdoms,
Okay.
but he also forged alliances with others.
Ah, so a combination of strength and diplomacy.
Exactly. He knew that was the most effective way to secure his control over this complex region.
It was a carrot and stick approach.
Conquer when necessary, but also make alliances.
And offer favorable terms to those who submitted peacefully.
He understood that a lasting victory required more than just brute force.
It required building relationships.
Right.
And finding ways to integrate different groups into his empire.
He was a unifier.
That's a pretty sophisticated approach for a ruler in the 16th century.
He was ahead of his time in many ways.
It sounds like he was laying the groundwork for the kind of religious tolerance and cultural blending that the Mughal Empire would later become famous for.
There are definitely parallels there.
It's fascinating to see how history connects
Mm,
and how one ruler's actions can have ripple effects for generations to come.
you're right.
But let's get back to the military campaigns.
Okay.
The notes mention something about Bengal and Afghans.
Ah, yes. Bengal was another key region that Sher Shah wanted to bring under his control.
Okay.
At that time, Bengal was ruled by Afghan rulers who had resisted Mughal authority.
So he saw an opportunity
He did.
to extend his empire eastward
Yes.
and also to eliminate a potential threat.
Exactly. He was always thinking strategically.
It was both about expanding his territory and securing his eastern frontier.
Right. From potential rivals.
So it was a two birds, one stone kind of situation.
You could say that.
He was always thinking several steps ahead.
He was a master strategist, and his campaign in Bengal was a testament to his military genius.
Because he was facing a formidable enemy, right?
He was in the form of Daud Khan Karani, a powerful Afghan ruler who had a strong army
Okay.
and a reputation for ferocity.
This Daud Khan sounds like a tough opponent. How did Sher Shah manage to defeat him?
Well, it was a combination of careful planning, strategic maneuvering, and of course, brilliant military tactics.
I can imagine it wasn't a walk in the park.
No, it wasn't. Sher Shah knew that he couldn't simply march into Bengal and expect a quick victory.
He had to outsmart his enemy
Right.
and exploit their weaknesses.
He was a master at that.
So it was a battle of wits as much as a battle of swords.
Exactly. Sher Shah first secured his supply lines and then carefully chose his battleground.
Okay, yeah.
He lured Daud Khan's forces into a trap at the Battle of Chausa in 1539.
Chausa, that's a name I haven't heard before. What happened at this battle?
Well, it was a decisive victory for Sher Shah. He used his artillery effectively and outmaneuvered Daud Khan's army, inflicting heavy casualties.
Wow.
And forcing them to retreat.
It sounds like a major turning point in the campaign.
It was a significant blow to Daud Khan's forces.
Did this victory break the back of Afghan resistance in Bengal?
It was a major setback, but Daud Khan, though defeated, wasn't completely finished.
Oh, so he wasn't giving up that easily.
No, he wasn't. He regrouped his forces and continued to resist Sher Shah's advances.
So it was a long and hard-fought campaign.
It was. It took another decisive battle, the Battle of Kannauj in 1540, to finally subdue him.
Kanj? No, that's a name that rings a bell. I remember learning about it in my history classes, but I don't recall the details. Can you refresh my memory?
Of course, the Battle of Kannauj was another masterclass in military strategy by Sher Shah.
Hey.
He again used his artillery, effectively chose a battlefield that gave him an advantage,
Right.
and outmaneuvered his opponent.
The notes mention something about a feigned retreat.
Ah, yes, that was a brilliant tactic.
What was that all about?
Sher Shah pretended to retreat.
Really?
Yeah, drawing Daud Khan's forces out of their fortified position and into the open.
So he was luring them in?
Exactly. And then when they were vulnerable, he launched a surprise attack, routing the Afghan army
Oh, wow.
and capturing Daud Khan.
That's brilliant. It's like something out of a movie.
It was a truly remarkable victory, and with Daud Khan defeated, Sher Shah finally achieved his goal.
Of conquering Bengal.
Exactly, extending his empire all the way to the eastern coast of India.
So he had conquered the north central India Rajputana
Mm.
and now Bengal. His empire was truly vast.
It was an empire that stretched from the Indus River to the Bay of Bengal.
It's hard to even imagine the scale of it.
It's incredible what he achieved in such a short span of time.
He was a man who knew what he wanted and was relentless in his pursuit of his goals.
A true visionary.
But did he ever face any setbacks or challenges during these campaigns?
Oh, of course. Even the greatest military commanders face setbacks.
I can imagine.
The notes mentioned a campaign in 1543 against Maldeo Rathore, the Rajput ruler of Marwar.
Marwar, that's in present-day Rajasthan, right?
Yes. Maldeo Rathore was a powerful ruler who had initially submitted to Sher Shah.
Okay.
but later rebelled, hoping to take advantage of Sher Shah's preoccupation with other campaigns.
So it was a case of an ambitious ruler trying to exploit a perceived weakness.
Exactly.
How did Sher Shah respond to this challenge?
He was furious, of course.
I bet.
He saw Maldeo's rebellion as a betrayal and a threat to his authority.
Understandable.
So he immediately marched his army towards Marwar, determined to crush the rebellion.
I bet Maldeo regretted his decision to rebel.
He probably did. Sher Shah's forces were formidable, and they quickly gained the upper hand.
But Maldeo was no pushover.
You're right, he was a skilled military leader himself, and he knew the terrain of Marwar well.
So it was a clash of titans.
It was two powerful rulers vying for control of a strategically important region.
And this campaign proved to be more challenging than Sher Shah had anticipated.
It did. The Rajput forces familiar with the desert terrain used guerrilla tactics to harass Sher Shah's army.
Oh, so it wasn't just about pitched battles.
No.
It was about adapting to a different kind of warfare.
A war of attrition and cunning.
And this campaign highlighted Sher Shah's adaptability
It did.
and his willingness to adjust his strategies based on the circumstances.
He was a flexible leader.
So he realized that traditional battlefield tactics wouldn't be enough to defeat Maldeo.
Right. He adopted a more cautious approach, securing his supply lines,
Okay,
building forts to consolidate his gains, and waiting for the right opportunity to strike.
patience and strategic thinking were as important as military might in this campaign.
Absolutely.
So how did it end?
Well, eventually, Sher Shah's patience paid off. He managed to lure Maldeo's forces into a trap at the Battle of Samil in 1544.
Another decisive victory.
Yes, inflicting a crushing defeat on the Rajput army and securing his control over Marwar.
So even though he faced challenges, he ultimately emerged victorious.
He did, demonstrating his resilience and his strategic brilliance.
It's amazing how he managed to juggle so many different campaigns and challenges simultaneously.
It's a testament to his leadership skills and his unwavering determination.
He was a man who knew how to delegate,
Right.
how to trust his generals,
Exactly.
and how to adapt to changing circumstances.
A true leader.
And speaking of adapting to circumstances, the notes mention one final campaign, his campaign against Kalinjar in Bundelkhand.
Ah, yes, Kalinjar.
Oh.
This campaign sadly proved to be both a victory and a tragedy.
What do you mean? What happened at Kalinjar?
Well, Kalinjar was a formidable fort,
Okay.
perched on top of a hill and known for its strong defenses.
A tough nut to crack.
It was, but Sher Shah was determined to capture it both for its strategic importance
Okay.
and for the prestige it would bring him.
So it was another strategic move aimed at solidifying his control over a key region.
Right.
But you said it was a tragedy. What happened?
Well, despite the fort's strong defenses, Sher Shah's forces managed to breach the walls.
So they were on the verge of victory.
They were. However, during the siege, a stray rocket hit a gunpowder store,
Oh.
causing a massive explosion.
Oh no. Was Sher Shah caught in the explosion?
He was severely injured and died a few days later on May 22, 1545.
What a tragic end to such a remarkable life.
It is.
It's ironic that a man who had survived countless battles and overcome so many challenges
I know, right?
met his end in such an unexpected way.
It's a reminder that even the most powerful and capable individuals are not immune to fate's unpredictable twists and turns.
His death must have sent shockwaves through his empire.
It did.
What happened after he died? Did his empire crumble without his leadership?
Well, surprisingly, no. His empire didn't immediately collapse.
Oh wow.
His son, Islam Shah Suri, succeeded him and managed to hold on to power for several years.
So the dynasty continued.
It did for a while.
Yeah.
Islam Shah was a capable ruler in his own right, and he continued many of his father's policies and reforms.
But it didn't last forever.
No, after Islam Shah's death in 1554, the Sur dynasty faced internal conflicts and rebellions.
And that paved the way for Humayun's return.
Exactly, and the establishment of the Mughal Empire.
So Sher Shah's empire, though relatively short-lived, had a lasting impact.
It did a profound impact on the course of Indian history.
His reforms, his military achievements, his vision for a united and prosperous India.
All of it contributed to shaping the India we know today.
It's amazing how one person's actions can have such far-reaching consequences.
It's truly remarkable.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We spent the last two parts exploring the life and accomplishments of Sher Shah Suri, a ruler who truly packed a punch in his short reign.
He really did. From military strategist to administrative reformer, he seems to have excelled in so many areas.
But as we hinted at the end of part 2, there's another fascinating layer to Sher Shah Suri, his influence on culture and intellectual life.
Right, we've talked about his beautiful architecture, but our notes suggest he was also a patron of the arts and literature.
So what can you tell us about that side of him?
Well, what's interesting is that Sher Shah Suri came to power during a period of significant cultural exchange between different parts of India.
Oh, so like Persian influences, Afghan traditions, various regional artistic styles all blending together.
Exactly, a real melting pot of ideas and artistic expressions, and Sher Shah seems to have embraced this cultural diversity.
Okay.
He recognized that art and literature could be powerful tools for unifying his empire and promoting a sense of shared identity.
That makes sense when you have such a diverse empire. Finding common ground through art and culture can be really important.
Absolutely, and one of the most notable examples of his patronage is the epic poem Padmavat,
Padmava.
written by Malik Muhammad Jayasi.
Okay.
This poem, completed during Sher Shah's reign, became incredibly popular and is still celebrated today.
I've heard of Padmavat, but I'll admit I'm not familiar with the story. Can you give us a little background?
Sure, Padmavat is a love story, a tragedy, and an epic all rolled into one.
Wow.
It tells the story of Rani Padmini, the legendary queen of Chittor, her husband Ratan Singh, and the Sultan of Delhi Alauddin Khalji.
Interesting.
It's a story of love, loyalty, courage, and sacrifice.
It sounds intense.
It is a powerful tale. What role did Sher Shah play in the creation of this epic poem?
Yeah, what was his contribution?
Well, while he didn't write the poem himself, he provided patronage to Malik Muhammad Jayasi, the poet.
Oh, so he supported him.
Exactly. This support allowed Jayasi to focus on his work and create a masterpiece.
A masterpiece that has resonated through the centuries.
Exactly. Sher Shah, even though he was a busy ruler,
I can imagine.
recognized the value of supporting artists and intellectuals.
And his patronage had a ripple effect, right?
It encouraged other artists and writers, creating a more vibrant intellectual atmosphere in his court.
It's like he was creating a space where creativity could flourish, where different voices could be heard and celebrated.
Exactly, and it's important to remember that he did all of this while also focusing on military campaigns, administrative reforms.
And all the other demands of ruling a vast empire.
Right, it speaks to his ability to prioritize and delegate effectively.
He was a true multitasker, a master of juggling different priorities.
He was.
But beyond just patronage, are there other ways that Sher Shah influenced cultural and intellectual life in India?
Well, as we've discussed, he was a builder at heart.
Yeah.
And his architectural projects weren't just about functionality, they were also about aesthetics and cultural expression.
We've already talked about his magnificent structures like the Purana Kila, his mausoleum, and the Rhodes Fort.
Right.
How did these projects reflect his cultural influence?
Well, look at the architectural style of these structures.
Okay.
They blend elements of Islamic architecture, Afghan traditions, and regional Indian styles.
A fusion of different cultural influences.
Exactly. It's a beautiful fusion, and this fusion of styles became a hallmark of his architectural legacy.
So it reflected his vision of a unified empire where different cultures could coexist.
And contribute to a shared identity.
It's like he was building bridges between different communities, using architecture as a language of understanding and appreciation.
That's a great way to put it. And his architectural projects didn't just influence the visual landscape,
Okay.
they also had a social and economic impact.
Oh, how so?
Well, think about the sarais, the rest houses he built along the Grand Trunk Road.
Yeah, those were brilliant.
They weren't just about providing shelter for travelers, they became hubs of cultural exchange,
Oh, I see.
where people from different regions and backgrounds could interact and share ideas.
So he was inadvertently creating spaces where cultures could mingle,
Right.
where trade could flourish, and where knowledge could be shared.
Exactly. And this interconnectedness, this flow of ideas and goods, was essential for the growth and prosperity of his empire.
It's amazing how seemingly simple things like building a road or a rest house can have such a ripple effect
I know, it's incredible.
on culture, economics, and even social dynamics.
It speaks to Sher Shah's vision and his ability to see the bigger picture.
He understood that a strong empire wasn't just about military might.
Right.
It was also about fostering cultural exchange, promoting economic growth, and creating a sense of shared identity.
He was a true visionary.
What a fascinating legacy. We've covered so much ground in this deep dive, from his military campaigns to his administrative reforms,
It's been quite a journey.
his architectural achievements, and his cultural influence.
He was a remarkable man.
It's clear that Sher Shah Suri was a remarkable figure who deserves a much more prominent place in our understanding of Indian history.
I completely agree. He was a visionary leader, a brilliant strategist, and a man who genuinely cared about the well-being of his people.
And his story is a reminder that even those who rule for a short time can have a profound and lasting impact.
if they have the courage to challenge the status quo and the vision to create a better future.
Well said. As we wrap up this deep dive, what are some key takeaways that our listeners should keep in mind about Sher Shah Suri?
Well, first, his story is a testament to the power of ambition and strategic thinking.
Yeah, he came from relatively humble beginnings,
He did.
but rose to become one of the most powerful rulers in India.
All through his own cunning and determination.
And he didn't stop at just conquering territory,
No, he was a builder, a reformer, and a patron of the arts.
demonstrating that true leadership goes beyond just military prowess.
Exactly.
Mhm.
He understood that a strong and prosperous empire requires a solid foundation built on efficient administration, a fair legal system.
And a vibrant cultural life.
Right. His story also reminds us that even seemingly small actions like building a road or supporting an artist can have ripple effects.
That shaped the course of history.
And finally, his legacy is a testament to the fact that greatness is not measured by the length of one's reign.
But by the impact they make on the world.
Exactly.
So what are your final thoughts on Sher Shah Suri? What do you think is his most enduring legacy?
I think his most enduring legacy is his vision for a unified and prosperous India. He saw beyond the divisions of religion, ethnicity, and regional identity and worked towards creating an empire where everyone could thrive.
A powerful vision.
And that vision continues to inspire us today as we strive toward building a more just and equitable world.
Well said. And on that note, we've reached the end of our deep dives into the reign of Sher Shah Suri. We hope you've enjoyed this journey through history
I know I have.
and learned something new along the way. What aspects of Sher Shah Suri's reign stood out to you? What other historical figures from this era would you like us to explore? Let us know in the comments, and stay tuned for more deep dives into fascinating chapters of history.